In 1944, two Slovak Jews escaped from Auschwitz and wrote a detailed report documenting mass murder on an industrial scale. The report reached Allied governments within weeks, yet the gas chambers continued operating for 10 more months, killing hundreds of thousands more people. How did the largest genocide in modern history remain hidden in plain sight? And why, even when the truth emerged, did so little change? The Holocaust wasn't hidden by accident. It was concealed by design. From the beginning, Nazi leadership used coded language. The systematic murder of 6 million Jews was never called murder in official documents. Instead, they used terms like special treatment, evacuation, and the final solution to the Jewish question. When Heinrich Himmler addressed SS officers in Posen in 1943, he spoke of the extermination of the Jewish people as a page of glory never mentioned and never to be mentioned. The killing centers themselves were built in remote locations, primarily in occupied Poland, far from major population centers. Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, these weren't cities anyone had heard of. Auschwitz-Birkenau, the largest killing center, was located in a rural area that had been annexed from Poland. According to historian Raoul Hilberg's seminal work, The Destruction of the European Jews, the Nazis maintained strict compartmentalization. Railroad workers transported people but weren't told the final destination's purpose. Factory workers produced Zyklon B gas but didn't know its application. Camp guards at transit camps didn't know what happened after deportation. When 437,000 Hungarian Jews were deported to Auschwitz between May and July 1944, most believed they were being resettled for labor. The Nazis had them send postcards from transit camps describing good conditions. By the time families stopped receiving letters, it was too late. The question isn't whether the world knew. The question is what they did with that knowledge. By 1942, credible reports were reaching Allied governments. In August of that year, Gerhard Riegner, representative of the World Jewish Congress in Geneva, sent a telegram to American and British officials describing a plan to exterminate Jews in German-controlled territories. The U.S. State Department initially suppressed the message. The New York Times, despite having reporters with access to reliable information, buried stories about mass extermination on inside pages. Between 1939 and 1945, the Times published over 1,000 articles about the persecution and murder of Jews, but only 6 appeared on the front page. Historian Laurel Leff documented this pattern in her book, Buried by the Times. In April 1944, Rudolf Verba and Alfred Wetzel, the Slovak escapees from Auschwitz, produced their 30-page report detailing the camp's layout, the gas chambers, the crematoriums, and the murder of 1.7 million people. The Verba-Wetzler report reached Jewish leadership, the Vatican, and Allied governments. The Allies had other evidence, too. Aerial reconnaissance photos taken by the U.S. Army Air Forces in 1944 clearly showed Auschwitz-Birkenau, including prisoners being led to gas chambers. But requests to bomb the railways or the camp itself were denied. Military officials claimed resources couldn't be diverted from the war effort, though Allied planes bombed industrial targets just 5 miles from Auschwitz. Why did intervention fail? The reasons were complex, uncomfortable, and reveal hard truths about wartime priorities. First, antisemitism wasn't unique to Nazi Germany. Surveys in the United States during the war showed significant portions of the American public held anti-Semitic views. Countries including the United States, Britain, and Canada had severely restricted Jewish immigration through the 1930s and early 1940s. The infamous 1939 voyage of the St. Louis, carrying 937 Jewish refugees, was turned away from Cuba and the United States, forcing the ship back to Europe, where many later died in the Holocaust. Second, there was skepticism born from World War I. Exaggerated atrocity propaganda from the previous war had created doubt. Many officials questioned whether reports of systematic extermination could be true. It seemed too extreme, too organized, too modern in its horror. Third, military priority was placed on winning the war itself, with officials arguing that victory would be the best way to save lives. As historian David Wyman documented in The Abandonment of the Jews, this reasoning often served as cover for inaction, even when low-cost rescue operations were proposed. Finally, the Nazis accelerated extermination as their defeat became certain. From 1944 to 1945, knowing the end was near, they intensified killing and destroyed evidence. When Soviet forces liberated Auschwitz on January 27, 1945, they found only 7,000 survivors. The Nazis had evacuated or murdered most prisoners and demolished gas chambers to hide their crimes. The Holocaust wasn't impune because it was perfectly hidden. It was impune because those who could have acted chose not to, because bureaucracies prioritized other concerns, because ordinary people found the truth too terrible to believe, and because prejudice made rescue seem less urgent. When we ask how this happened, we're not just asking about the past. We're asking what combination of secrecy, indifference, disbelief, and complicity allows atrocity to continue even when evidence exists. That question remains urgent today.